Zurich is a modern city built on old roots. Its transport, sustainability, and green spaces all connect to create a society focused on climate proofing for the future. Climate proofing, as well as sustainable practices, are the key to this cultural shift that started here in Zurich and has left the rest of the world catching up. From the local flower shops to the trees and parks, Zurich's use of biology conserves water, reduces heat and noise to create an overall cleaner city. Research has shown that biological factors greatly increase inner-city species diversity. Additionally, a further study reports that biodiversity is linked to more livable cities, which goes hand in hand with Zurich's high rankings and many of the subsequent metrics. The city has even recently begun to further these policies, since 2018 has raised the amount of tree-shaded areas from 17% to 25%. Zurich follows the Urban Trees Plan and uses the Green Book of Zurich to outline its environmental policy until 2030. I explored Zurich's parks and green spaces firsthand and spoke to some of Zurich's foremost ecological urban planners to get a better understanding of how sustainable practices have made Zurich the foremost climate-proofing city in the world. On the southeast side of Zurich, the Reitberg is one of the city's foremost parks. Besides the great deal of flowers and other plant life, the drainage here was immediately evident and very efficiently terraced off the path. While creating a park in such a hilly area is not the best way to maximize the modern sponge city model, the dense foliage and landscaping reduces the runoff, while the terraces and drains help move the excess water out of the city in a way that maximizes the water usage without causing any erosion damage to the plant life and soil. The Reitberg is well shaded and incorporates many of the elements necessary for climate proofing. The park absorbs all the heat and sound, acting as a stimulus for biodiversity. Upcoming projects are set to expand the green corridors and green spaces, making this area of the city even more biologically sustainable, and a perfect representation of the city's climate-proofing model. I spoke to Tal Hatig, a researcher with a background in urban ecology, in order to gain insight into the specific biological elements of Zurich.
The first and foremost question is, can a plant grow within the system? If a plant can't grow within the system, we don't choose that plant, because it can look as great as possible. If it will die, it's only a cost, and it's also it's not sustainable on a carbon footprint is bigger. It's just not sustainable. We're trying to make a source of plants as indigenous as possible, with the realization that that's not always possible, especially within the city landscape. So then we have to look for new sources of plant material or green space material where we maybe look from other countries, but we look at what would not become invasive. We call it a vegetation system. That's what we call it in our group, because it's not just the space itself, it's also the interaction, and also the maintenance is a part of that system, for example. So if you design a system that has to be maintained over time, it's smart to plan a system that has as low maintenance as possible, but with the clear message that every system has to get maintenance at one time or another.
The Stadt Garden is one of Zurich's foremost flower producers. The gardens here use a variety of sustainable techniques to supply the city parks and landscapes with sustainable flowers of all varieties. Producing between 100,000 and 150,000 flowers per year, the Stadt Garden's policy is to maximize water conservation and heat reduction in their growing techniques, while still supplying the city's high flower demand. Additionally, they are moving their flower choice to be more seasonal, so they can be grown outside of greenhouses, further maximizing efficiency. Some of their flower choices include herbaceous perennials, which have been used in many projects in Zurich due to their unique profile of increasing soil porosity and fostering soil with increased biodiversity. The Stadt Garden is like several facilities in Zurich, and these, like the Stadt Garden, provide open access to the public to help maintain the high quality of life in the city.
We amend the soils then with something called biochar, that is often green material that is charred at high temperatures in a very controlled way. And what the resulting char that comes out of the system is like an empty battery. And you can load that up through by mixing it with compost, you can load it up with minerals. And it is a fantastic way to improve tree life, because it is because of the sponge-like qualities of the char. It can hold much more water, and it can also, it's like a charged battery with nutrients.
This is Professor Stefan Karath from the Zeha School of Architecture in Zurich. He had some interesting ideas about Zurich's sustainable future.
10 years there was no discussion about heating problems, about wind, about with the water has to go in the air to cool everything down. And now we have all these simulation models. There is a huge awareness. Maybe it already goes in the direction that what was no aim before maybe comes too strong aim at the moment. It's dangerous as well, but as I said, it's what these simulations and these initiatives will have related to planning then an effect in 5-10 years. This year we have a specific biodiversity in the forests, we have the rivers which are close, we have water could cool the city, we have wind streams coming from the forests. We have kind of a good network of green corridors, so we would have a good system to increase all or bring this still together, so we don't have to kind of grow new forests to make something new. What we have to do is to connect it better.
I do think one big important thing is protecting the trees that we have. So for one thing, funding that new projects are done in a sustainable way, which is done in Zurich, but also making sure that trees that already exist, because even if we plant a new tree, it takes about 15, depending on the species, 15 to 30 years until the tree is big enough that it's functional for certain ecosystem services. A small tree, the cooling effect is marginal in compared to a large tree. So the first and foremost thing is, would you have to protect the trees that you already have?
They build now the canalization, takes the water away, brings it somewhere outside instead of keeping it in the ground, making it going in the air. And we still build underground garages where we should have the space for the roots of trees. As I said, in 10 years it will change, but the improvement is now on this.
Zurich's green spaces and relationship with nature are the things that make the city so unique. Cities in the United States have not caught up to this way of life, despite its clear benefits to the surrounding ecosystems and society at large. It's only a matter of time before the rest of the world catches up to this way of thinking. And maybe if some of the world's leaders came to Zurich, they would realize climate proofing's importance even sooner. Better policy and civic engagement can only make Zurich's biodiversity flourish more. Climate proofing is a long process, and Zurich, by many estimates, is still 40 years away from being close to fully climate proof. Planning is half the battle, and knowing Zurich has come so far in the last 10 years makes me confident that the city of Zurich will maintain a strong relationship with nature and climate proofing for lifetimes to come.